Mr. Chairman, this amendment prohibits the Justice Department from discriminating against businesses and other entities receiving federal funds because they reject Mr. Biden's vaccine dictate. Mr. Biden said this is not about freedom, this is about your safety. Benjamin Franklin had a decidedly different view, an authentically American view, that those that give up freedom for safety deserve neither. This is very much a question of freedom and a question of an authoritarian government that is aggressively, unconstitutionally, and now belligerently asserting control over every facet of Americans' lives, including what medical procedures they must undergo. The COVID vaccine is a miracle of American research and development, made possible after President Trump cut through miles of red tape, mountains of bureaucracy, and restored to pharmaceutical companies the freedom to innovate. And the data is clear that the vaccine is effective at dramatically reducing the severity of the illness and especially the risk of dying from it. Every American has been informed of this, and every American has had the opportunity to protect themselves by being vaccinated. Now, after looking at the data and considering my own circumstances, I gladly got the vaccine. One less thing to worry about. But if I had already recovered from COVID, as at least 41 million Americans have, I might have concluded otherwise. Multiple studies document that natural immunity is more effective at protecting against a second infection than the vaccine. If I were under 20, I might have concluded otherwise. A study out of Israel warns that for young males, the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine is greater than the risk of hospitalization for COVID. Mr. Biden is correct that the current COVID spike is very much an epidemic of the unvaccinated, which raises the question, who exactly are we protecting? We've been told if you're vaccinated, you're protected. The only significant risk is to the unvaccinated who've already assessed the risks for themselves and accepted those risks for themselves. The studies are clear that if you're vaccinated, you've got a higher risk of dying from the flu. If you're under 20 and unvaccinated, you have a higher risk of dying from the flu. So in this brave new world of Big Brother Biden, what is to stop the government from forcing every American to get a flu shot, or a tetanus shot, or a hepatitis shot, or a shingles shot? The president warns his patience is wearing thin. Well, Mr. Biden, our patience as Americans is wearing thin. We are tired of being bullied by autocrats, zealots, and petty tyrants who've robbed our children of their educations and robbed millions of Americans of their livelihoods. Study after study now documents that there is no statistically significant difference in the spread of the virus between jurisdictions that mandated business closures, house detentions, and mask wearing, and those that did not. Sweden never mandated any of those things, and they have an older and therefore more vulnerable population than ours. As of this morning, Sweden had 593 fewer deaths per million from COVID than the United States. That is to say, if we had Sweden's numbers, there would be 195,000 fewer dead Americans from COVID. I'm more than happy to listen to my government's advice on how to live my life, but I'll be damned if I'll take its orders. In the case of the vaccines, for me and my family, that advice made sense. Others may conclude otherwise. I am vaccinated, so the unvaccinated pose no threat to me. The threat they pose to themselves is their responsibility. It is none of my business, it is none of your business, and it is certainly none of Joe Biden's business. A government that has seized the power to order you to submit to medical procedures against your physician's advice and your own best judgment is a government that has no boundaries left. Every day, people make bad decisions in their lives. But the bad decisions we all make are the price we pay for the freedom to make all the good decisions in our lives. Our government is based on the notion that we are born with the right to live our lives as we see fit, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That government does not create these rights, but rather we create government to protect them. Any form of government that becomes destructive of them renounces its legitimacy and absolves its citizens from loyalty or obedience. That is what is at stake here. Everything that defines us as a free people, everything that defines us as Americans. I yield back.